let's first go over in a category that I sell an abundance of on Amazon FBA, and that is apparel and shoes. And I'll give you some reasons why it's very polarizing, this category, from seller to seller. This apparel and shoes category includes brands like Nike, Adidas, Converse, Vans, and much more. So first off, let's go over the advantages of selling apparel and shoes. First things first, they're all very higher ticket items. For example, all the shoes and clothes that I sell in this category, they range between about $40 to $100. And this is information that I've retrieved from Sellerboard. By the way, if you don't have Sellerboard, check them out. Amazing profit analyzer. And checking back the last 30 days, I found that the average selling price for apparel category for me is around $62, which is great. For example, let's say I'm selling something that's $50, right? And the return on my investment is 30%. This means I'm making $15 per unit that I sell. In addition to that is the shipping. Okay, so we all know shoes, underwear, socks, they take up a small amount of matter. And as a result, the shipping cost isn't as much, as well as the weight, right? A typical shoe box is about 2 pounds versus like grocery and stuff like that can start weighing more than that, right? And that's going to result into higher shipping fees. In addition to the low shipping fee is the actual ease of prep. It doesn't take much to prep shoe boxes, right? For me, I have a shoe, it's already packaged, so I don't have to polybag it. I just put a rubber band on it and I label it. That's it, right? So this is the ease of prepping, which is something you should also take into account when you're buying certain products, is how difficult and how much time it's going to take you to prep the item. If it's packaged, you don't have to polybag it. If you can touch the actual physical item, then you're going to have to polybag it. And when it comes to shoes, they're already in a shoebox. Now, I will say socks and stuff like that, you do have to polybag, but they're so small, you just drop it in, seal it, label it, done, right? And if you're just starting to sell on Amazon, more than likely you don't have a prep center yet. So this could be a huge benefit for you when it comes to how much time it's going to take you to actually prep the items. When it comes to apparel and shoes, prepping is pretty minimal. All right, so moving along with advantages in this category, you'll find that big name brands like Nike, Adidas, Vans, Converse, and whatnot, they do sell really quickly. Now, this is all based on a respective listings keep a chart, so make sure you check the numbers first. But generally speaking, you'll be able to find lots of listings with lots of sales. Why? Because customers want these brands. There's a high demand for these brands. In addition to that, you'll be able to find a lot of good sales on Nike and Adidas and whatnot. A lot of times this is in back to school demand, Q4 during Christmas time, but just generally speaking throughout the year, you'll be able to find a lot of clearance items of various online sites and even retail sites. I mainly do online arbitrage though, but I do know many people that find better discounts in stores, and most of the time you do find the bigger discounts in store, but I try to stay online and I still find great sales. All right, so moving along with the benefits of this category, big brands like Nike, Converse, Adidas, Under Armour, they do have a huge spike in demand. Why? Because customers really want these brands. So you'll find various listings. Generally speaking, you do want to check the Keepa data and the history of a respective listing. But generally speaking, most of these listings have high sale volume because of this high demand. So you'll be pleased to find that when you're selling these items, you'll be able to sell it pretty quickly. It's not going to be sitting for quite a while. In addition to that, you can find lots of good sales on these kinds of brands, both online and retail. Most of the time, you'll find better discounts in the store, but I generally just buy online, and even online, you'll find great clearance sales, and a lot of times they'll let you still use another discount on top of that, right? So whichever way you prefer, but most people that do go in store find better discounts, but again, I prefer to stay online. Moving on, you'll find that brands like Nike are not actually selling on Amazon, whereas other brands that we'll go over towards the end of this video, they do sell on Amazon. What is that? Why is that important? Because now you know that Nike is not going to give you an intellectual property complaint on Amazon because they don't sell on there. However, Amazon does sell certain products, so you just want to make sure you're not competing with Amazon on a listing, because Amazon does tend to take a lion's share of the buy box. Now, again, this is just from my own experience. I have not gotten any IP complaints from those mentioned brands. Maybe you've had different experiences, so if you have, please do drop me a comment below and let me know. And the last benefit of this category is obvious. They don't have any expiration dates, right? Like there's no expiration date on a sock, on a shoe, versus other categories that we'll go over. So you don't have to worry about sending something into Amazon warehouse and then one day it becomes unfulfillable. And that wraps it up for the advantages. Let's move on to disadvantages of selling apparel and shoes on Amazon. All right, so the first disadvantage we're going to talk about in this category is the fact that it's not an essential item. Meaning it's not an item like cereal, tissue paper, right? Some things that customers don't need in their daily lives. And as a result, it does tend to have a higher return rate than other categories. In the event it doesn't fit the customer, maybe it's not what the customer thought it would look like. So my average return rate for apparel is about 9%, and this is calculated from all my statistics in Sellerboard. And returns can really negatively impact our bottom line because for every return, there is a restocking fee that Amazon puts on your account. So you want to be aware and look at how much you're getting charged per return. It might be a case where if your item is such a low selling price, it might be better for, instead of you getting hit with this restocking fee, that you have Amazon just dispose of the product. But just make sure you're checking what that fee you're accruing is. All right, so we cannot change that customer behavior, right? But we can change to mitigate this this negative effect of these return rates is our buying habits, our buying criteria, right? So I only purchase apparel that's over 35% ROI. And as a result, I offset this return rate and I'm profitable overall. All right, so moving along to the next negative impact of this category is the mass amount of counterfeits in the market. That's why you want to make sure to steer clear of buying apparel from resale stores or boutiques, mainly because if a customer does say that they think that your product is inauthentic and Amazon puts a flag on your account health where now you got to submit invoices, Amazon might not approve invoices from these stores that they deem are not authorized sellers. So even though the boutique that you're buying from or the resale store that you're buying from may be trusted in this community, in the eyes of Amazon's support staff, you have to understand they're usually not from the US, they're probably overseas. They're not going to look at these stores and think that they're legitimate stores. And as a result, they're going to deny your invoices. So just be cautious if you see a price that's just too good to be true, because inauthenticity complaints, if you get a lot of them, they will start impacting your account and you will be at risk of deactivation. And that's a word that Amazon loves to use, account deactivation. They'll use it so freely that it's just ridiculous. But if you do get too many of these inauthenticity complaints, you will get your account deactivated. So steer clear of that. But as long as you're buying from authorized online stores that you can show that you've been purchasing from them, you'll be fine. If you do get hit with one of these inauthenticity complaints, go over to the site. My site is below. Book a call with me. I've helped many members in our group help win these cases, but you have to make sure you're buying from an authentic store. And I can show you how to type up a good plan of action, some sort of document that most Amazon staff like to see when you're submitting these invoices. Sometimes they just don't want just a receipt or just the invoice. They want lettering. They want a full document telling them how you're going to take responsibility of this inauthenticity complaint and how you're going to take actions to circumvent getting another one. And yes, this does include eBay. Amazon does not approve eBay invoices. So I know a lot of people do buy on eBay and sell on Amazon, and a lot of people make a lot of money doing that. But there is a risk with that if you do get hit with the inauthenticity complaint, Amazon does not look at eBay's invoices as legitimate. So the next disadvantage is, just as there's a lot of demand for these products, you'll find out there's a lot of sellers on these listings as well. This can be a good and bad thing, right? The bad thing is if there's a new sellers on this listing, a lot of them are going to be trying to compete for the buy box. They're going to be dropping their prices. And if more people keep dropping their prices, the price eventually decreases and the listing tanks, right? So if that's you, don't do it. Just match the buy box. We're all going to get sales. The buy box will distribute evenly. Don't worry. So, but steer clear that prices might tank if there's much more sellers than the demand calls for. Now, in that same token, if I see 30 sellers, I'm like, but if there are 30 sellers on a listing, but the sales volume is so high, like 300 or something, you can still get contribution to the buy box. I have a whole video regarding how to win the buy box. I'll link that below. But for example, let's say there's 30 sellers, right, on a listing, but the volume, the Keep It shows that in the last 30 days, they've sold, that listing sold 200, 300. Let's say 300, right? So 300 sales in the last 30 days. There's 30 sellers. So in theory, each seller should get 10 sales per month, assuming everything stays constant, right? Assuming the demand stays constant. If there's a trend, maybe the trend spikes up and now sellers are selling more and they're getting out of stock quickly. But In theory, if the demand stays the same, the price stays the same, and there's 30 sellers, and the volume is about 300 sales a month evenly, then it should contribute pretty easily. So don't just get turned off when you see a bunch of sellers. Do your due diligence, look at the analytics, look at the data, and see if it's possible for you to get a share of that buy box pie and some profit. And also, if you need help sourcing and even finding these kinds of listings and how to sell, I have a full video going in detail how I use SellerAmp, how I use Keepa to source products and find profitable listings where it's worth it to try to sell on a listing. And finally, the last disadvantage of this category, and we're going to harken back over to the counterfeit issue that I was speaking about. Just as there's a lot of counterfeits in the market, there's a lot of customers who will try some fraudulent tactics and claim that your product is counterfeit. And sometimes maybe they are legitimate claims. But if that does happen, again, you have to make sure your invoices are good. One thing to always make sure is whenever you're purchasing any product anywhere, that the billing address of that invoice or the receipt matches that address on your Seller Central account. Very important. The shipping address does not matter. So if you have a prep center, it's all good. But that billing address has to match your Amazon Seller Central account and the name and address. Or Amazon's going to say, nope, this doesn't work. So make sure of that. So yeah, I've gotten various times now where the customers tries to say that my product is inauthentic. It is definitely not inauthentic. So I've been able to win those cases. I've been able to help my members win those cases as well. So if you do need help with that, again, the website is below. You can book a call with me.